rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. How about that interview yesterday? Oh my gosh, let me explain something to you folks. Okay, an interviewer can do well, but can really do well when the guest is as fantastic as yesterday's guest was. If you missed it, you should go back and check out yesterday's episode. We had a fantastic guest on, and I must say, they made me look like a professional interviewer, which I'm not. But of course, you know, we got through it. It was good. It was good. Well, I get another chance to practice on Saturday too. So don't miss Saturday's show, because I have another guest lined up that I really think you're going to want to talk to or listen to. So, anyway, but yeah, definitely check out yesterday's episode for sure, because, it was a fantastic interview. Really informative. I think it made people think, which is a good thing. And, all of those wonderful things. So, all right, let's go ahead and, get things kicked off for tonight. Tonight is the Fat Paws. Fat Paws is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand. Please stand. Remove your hats if you're wearing one. I got lost. I'm sorry. Please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. And if you place your hand over your heart and follow along with Fat Paws. Oh my God, it's discombobulated already. Anyway, follow along with Fat Paws as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And of course, I thank you, Fat Paws, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, or reciting it in your style, however you want to do it. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file is created, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I understand from a heavenly, well, he was accepted into heaven in September, but a heavenly host, that if you want to use your phone to do the deed, you can share it. Use the share button to share it to to fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And that'll do the exact same thing. It'll send it off to me, and I will receive it and get you into the rotation. We are looking for number 21 and 22. Obviously, if you've listened to this program, you know I like even numbers. So, go ahead and get 21 and 22 as soon as you can. So go ahead and do that. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's get on to tonight's headline sponsor, which is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him, and 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online. To get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. And each purchase of the aforementioned rounded cornered Saddleback leather book will cause a liberal to have socially inappropriate gastrointestinal dysfunctions. Yes, and it does have sexy rounded corners. That's right. Take a look at this thing. We've got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. And don't forget, there's no cheap glue binding it together, folks. This is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem within that time period, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is, rest in peace, my friend, Buddy tested, Buddy approved. Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you study and potentially pass the civics badge in scouting, as well as your civics exam. These are great stocking stuffers. I'm telling you, folks, you really you've got to buy a few of these to get them in your stockings. Hey, did you know that we're at 49 days to Christmas? That's right, 49. We are under the 50 mark. Okay? And I'm just saying, man, this will be a fantastic stocking stuffer. So go and head off to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. And also, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, as they have a plethora of information that is fantastically curated for our wonderful country that we call home. Go and check out all of their offerings today. And don't forget that I thank them, of course, for allowing me to be an affiliate.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Yeah, jeez. Oh, that's called operational headspace. Oh, Lord. Let's hope it doesn't end the program. In fact, let me go shut that off. Let's see. Where do I need this? Yeah, let's take that out. Here we go. All right. Good. I think I caught the automatic stuff before. Yeah. We got all kinds. Yes, operator headspace, operator error, ID10T key has hit. That's right, the ID10T key. The PEPCAC, problem exists between keyboard and chair, have all come into effect all at once. Anyway. All right, let's hope that's been triggered and is now gone, and I can put these back online, and now we should be back where we're normally at. Oh my gosh. Yes, the ID10T key. That's right. You have an idiot behind the box. I'm just hitting buttons all over the place. Anyway, all right, folks. Ooh, good thing it didn't kill anything. I mean, I was able to catch it. All right, where were we? Oh, Lord. We are so far off the rails right now, it's not even funny. Oh, wrong. See, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons, man. I just can't seem to hit all the right stuff. We're off the butt. Just all over. Oh, my goodness. Did somebody reprogram my keyboard? Here we go again. There we go. Yes, it is the keyboard operator interface issue. That is correct. Okay. Wow. Okay, let me calm myself. I'm just like doing all kinds of crap here and just all over the place. Whew. All right. You know what's got me all discombobulated? I'll tell you, it's this whole freaking federal shutdown. No, I'm just kidding. I'm having a short circuit here. Anyway, all right, let's get back to the show. So the FAA has now announced that it's slashing flights at 40 different airports. 40 different airports. As the Democrat shutdown keeps everything in play. Now, I'm not going to read through this entire list, but oh my gosh. There are some serious big ones. Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International. That's 2 flights, or there's flights there. Boston Logan International, Baltimore Washington International, Charlotte Douglas, Cincinnati, Dallas. That's Dallas Love Field. Ronald Reagan, Denver International, Dallas Fort Worth. There's the other one. Detroit, Metropolitan Wayne County, Newark, Liberty International, Fort Lauderdale, Honolulu, Houston, Washington, George Bush, Indianapolis, JFK, both L's, Las Vegas, Los Angeles. And the list goes on and on. So, the list is going to be long and distinguished, let's just say. So, Sean Duffy, of course, Transportation Secretary, basically said, and the FAA administrator basically said that the measure is, of course, going to be in place because they're just paying people and so on and so forth. The cuts are scheduled to apply to domestic flights that are scheduled between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. So this is during the day when people are flying. Any international flights, of course, are going to be exempt from the reductions at this time. Bedford, who is the FAA administrator, said our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible. Reduction in capacity at 40 of our locations. This is not based on light airline travel locations. This is about where the pressure is and how to really deviate the pressure. Sean Duffy said that the agency's decision is based on both data and staffing models that project continued pressure on the system if the shutdown persists. If they can't open it by the holiday weekend coming up and Thanksgiving, man, let me tell you, this is going to cause some serious problems. This is seriously going to cause some problems. So, yeah. Anyway, Bedford added, we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us that we can take action today to prevent things from deteriorating. So the system is extremely safe today and will be extremely safe tomorrow. And by the way, this decision comes as the National Air Traffic Controllers Association continues to warn that the prolonged shutdown is straining an already understaffed workforce. So, Anyway, so if you're planning on flying over the holidays, I would suggest that you plan for getting maybe a flight canceled or two, or things changing or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, according to the FAA's post on X, nearly 13,000 air traffic controllers have been working without pay for weeks, ensuring the safety of more than 50,000 daily operations across the national airspace system. So that's a long time, man. That's a long time. Now, over the weekend of October 31st and November 2nd, the FAA logged 98 separate staffing triggers, which forced flight delays, ground stops, and rerouting at several major airports. Half of the 30 busiest air U.S. facilities reported significant shortages, while the New York area, or with the New York area, experiencing absences as high as 80%. So if you're flying out of New York City, that may not be your best bet. You may want to try and switch to like Newark or something like that because, yeah, anyway. Although New York City actually can cover Newark as well. I don't know. It just sort of depends. But anyway. Yeah. So the reductions are set to begin early tomorrow morning. So there you go. Anyway. Well, we get a bright spot. Anytime this little weasel gets his due, I'm just telling you. But let me explain. Because this is tonight's Scott Jennings Truth Bomb. That's right. Scott Jennings shows up again with a truth bomb, this time against none other than the Hog. The Hog, David Hogg. Yes, David Hogg was on CNN. I don't know why these people bring these kinds of people on. I mean, seriously, you could have had a much better guest by bringing me on, as an example. I'm much more knowledgeable and definitely more charismatic than that weasel. But anyway, I mean, look, even his hair is like not, oh, you guys can't see it, but his hair is not even combed that great. At least I wear a hat, damn it. Anyway, so David Hogg was on the channel talking about the food stamps and the SNAP thing and so on and so forth. Well, yeah. And it didn't go very well once Scott Jennings got involved. So here we go.
The entire reason the government is not open right now is because Democrats refuse to be complicit in having millions of Americans, including 100,000 in Kentucky, your home state, if I'm remembering correctly, Scott, that rely on ACA, that would see their premiums rise several
which you can deal with separately. It doesn't have to be, those two things do not go together.
But the way that they're doing this right now, they're combining both.
Voting to support the budget still doesn't, if you keep it closed, doesn't fix the ACA. The ACA needs to be reformed. Healthcare needs to be reformed. This is a way bigger question.
You guys failed at that last time. The whole thing was repeal and replace. You had a trifecta. You tried this. You failed.
That's not true. They're still in the concept of a plan stage.
No, in terms of
they've been in the concept stage since 2000.
But David, you would admit that the ACA was a Democrat legislation, yes? And you would admit that the subsidies that we're talking about now were passed by Democrats, yes. And you would admit that the sunset provision in the subsidies, which comes up at the end of the year, was in place because of Democrats, yes. And now you want to make it a Republican problem. These are not the same issues. You could open the government today, and then you could negotiate with with Republicans about ACA. And by the way, my suspicion is, and you know this, there are probably, and I know there are some House Republicans that would love to negotiate on it, but under duress, under a hostage-taking situation, connecting disconnected issues, and now you're throwing SNAP onto it, you're throwing all the federal workers who aren't being paid onto it, all because of this fight that you wandered into because of your wing of the Democratic Party. You all led to this SNAP crisis. You all led to this crisis of the government being closed, and you don't know how to get out of it.
So, look, as you come...
Oh, there it is. Ah, wow. That, you know what? That actually deserves a second truth bomb. Let's just put it in there. There's the second truth bomb. Ah, yes, that's right. The second truth bomb. So anyway, David Hogg. Trying to get into, he failed at the pillow thing. He failed at the DNC vice chair, whatever position. And now he's doing this. I mean, he's attempting to make his way in the world, but he's not doing a very good job of it. I mean, Titus, the wrestler, the professional wrestler guy, he waxed David Hogg. Anyway, I don't know. It's just the Scott Jennings truth bombs. I got to tell you, those are really fun. But anyway, so there you go. That was our entertainment for tonight. Well, hey, we got some good news this weekend. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's Tyrus, not Titus." I said Titus. My bad. Well, as you can see, I'm not really a WWE fan anymore. But anyway, let me just tell you, we got some good news, and I know a lot of people, we're going to be talking about the election here in a minute, but I know a lot of people were basically, a little put out by the fact that not very many Republicans, if any, really won anything over this election. Well, we did actually get one piece of good news. Here is the piece of good news. Nancy Pelosi is not going to seek re-election. That's right. She is going to end her decades-long career. I would have thought that... Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Death Becomes Her, where Bruce Willis is this doctor who essentially creates this elixir, and then he experiments by giving it to his 3 ex-wives. Only in Hollywood can they come up with this bullshit. But anyway, he gives it to his 3 ex-wives, and they all end up, they're dead, but they're alive. And so, yeah, this is kind of what Nancy Pelosi looks like. She actually... I think she's actually been embalmed by her own vodka drinking or whatever. But she's finally decided she's not going to come back. Yes, that's right. She will complete her current term, and she's not going to come back. And, yeah. So, there you go. We got our situation here. So, anyway. Thank God, man. Now we just got to get like Chucky Boy Schumer out, and a couple of these others out. But of course, we got to replace them with decent, constitutionally following political people. And I know that's really hard. To do this, but yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about the election. Look, I've told you guys, I think I said this last night at the very end of the show. I think I told you guys that this whole idea that, Virginia went blue and New Jersey went blue and, Ma'am Danny won in New York City. All of that really matters not. Because it's not like they were... It's not like they were in, deep red districts. At the worst, they were in purple districts. They were in purple areas at the worst. At best, they were deep blue anyway. So nothing's really changing other than the fact that this has solidified the potential move from the Democrat Party of old into the communist Marxist Democrat Party of today. Let me explain something here, folks. Let me explain something, which is essentially this. Ma'am Danny, as an example. Well, first of all, you need to understand that most of the time, everybody votes during the presidential elections. But people tend to forget, quite often, they tend to forget, that in the off-year elections, you need to vote even more so. You cannot allow the off-year elections to just drop and do their own thing, because that's when, that's when things kind of get snuck up on. That's when you get those Ma'am Dannies and everything else is in the off-year elections. And this is why. Because there's only about, so for an example, here, this is in a city. New York City is a city with a population of somewhere around 7 million adults. The turnout was roughly 2 million. Is the guess. Okay? And that means that the electorate turnout for New York City was not even 1/3 of the population actually turned out. And do you see why? Do you see why? Now, Ma'am Danny won at the current count, or at the count when this article from Front Page was written, a little over 1 million votes. A little over 1 million votes. That's only about 14% of the entire 7 million possible voters in New York City. Folks, this is why. This is why. People don't seem to understand that when you have an off-year voting, it is almost doubly important to do so, to vote, because of the fact that that's when they sneak in these little, proposals and stuff, knowing that they're not going to get the turnout. They know they're not going to get the turnout, but they don't care. Because what they do is they put the things in, and they do it because they know that if they can get a significant portion of the electorate to stay home and to not vote, that means their sycophantic, always voting base, whatever that is, can get out and overcome whatever resistance might be there. They play the odds. And this is why. This is why. So, yeah. While the city itself, according to the article, has a large illegal alien population, it still has about 5 million registered voters in total. But that's even below the 40% turnout rate, even for registered voters. So the media and everything else is sitting here, and they're hyping all of this up. They're hyping this up, and they're saying, oh, this is the best election turnout in decades in New York City. But only if you don't pay attention to the fact that there was some population growth there and everything else. For an example, in 1993, the showdown between Giuliani and Dinkins, who was a racist hack who let the city burn, and whom Bill de Blasio viewed as an inspiration, 1.9 million voters turned out in a city with a smaller population and 3 million registered voters for a just under 60% voter turnout. So him getting elected, Ma'am Danny getting elected, is not a mandate. Neither is the mandate of, New Jersey. Well, New Jersey was already red or blue. In Virginia, yeah. Look at what happened in Virginia. You had Spanberger, who pulled along the assassination kid in the attorney general. She literally pulled him along, and so he is now the attorney general there. Even though he literally threatened the Republican House of Representatives, or whatever they call them, House of Delegates, I think, the Republican House leader there in their state, and his children. See, this is the problem when you don't vote in every single election. This is the problem when you don't pay attention to the politics that are going on in the off years. We put so much emphasis on the presidential elections. And this is why, one of the reasons why I sit here and I tell you, look, even in voting in the presidential election, I was telling this to my son because he was saying, hey, yeah, in the presidential election, my vote doesn't even count, which it actually does. But he's like, my vote doesn't even count. And what's even worse is my vote's, watered down by all the other hundreds of millions. And I said, look, folks, stop. I'm like, look, buddy, I need to tell you, it's not the national elections that you have to necessarily worry about. It's all the local and the state ones that can make a difference because your vote is weighed more in the state and especially in the local elections than it's going to be on the national elections. And so you can't view the fact that, oh, yeah, my vote doesn't count. You can't look at it that way. What you have to do is you have to look at it from the standpoint of, yes, my vote always counts. But it's much stronger of a vote in my local and my state than it is nationally. And this is why you need to focus mostly on your state and local elections when you're going and doing all of these things. Okay? All of these things. You need to understand that your vote does count. It counts more in your local and your state elections. But yet we put so much emphasis on the presidency. You know, many people can say who the president is, but many people cannot say who their state representatives are, or even who what district they're in. They don't even know the policies and procedures of their senators or their representative at the state level. And see, this is the problem that we have in this country. We have a flipped mentality when it comes to the priority of our elections. Yes, your vote, when thrown into the water with a whole bunch of others, just like you're throwing your vote or throwing a bottle into the ocean, yes, it doesn't really count in the ocean. But when you're dropping it into a lake or you're dropping it into a pond, which are what your state and local elections respectively represent, now all of a sudden that bottle is a lot bigger. That means your vote is a lot bigger. And that's what we need to focus on. So no, none of this is a mandate. And by the way, the article here says putting together 1 million votes in a city whose Muslim settler population is somewhere below 1 million and whose leftist population is certainly in that range is not that big of a deal. See, the opposition themselves didn't put together enough votes. And even when you look at it, look at the people that you had. You had Andrew Cuomo. Most people don't like Cuomo. And they had Mamdani. Most people didn't like Mamdani. And then you had Eric Adams in the race, and he was on the ballot even though he dropped out. And then you had that Curtis Sliwa, who very few people actually even knew who he was. More than likely. I'm just guessing. But even then, he was Republican, and so nobody in New York is going to vote for a Republican. Come on. That's a Democrat city. Give me a break. Yeah. Make absolutely certain that you vote inside the off-year elections. Make absolutely certain you vote in those. Because those are the ones that they're going to try and sneak by, and those are the ones that are going to make you count. Now, what's interesting about the whole thing about Mamdani, a lot of people don't seem to understand this, and I didn't even really know this because, of course, I don't live in New York. Who cares? But apparently there is a state law that if the city wants to increase their city taxes, they actually have to pass that increase through the state, meaning that Governor Hochul has to approve it. And she already came out a long time ago saying that she is not going to approve any increase in taxes. So, yeah, we're going to see. I'm going to be very interested to see how far Ma'am Danny can actually go with all of his. Oh, we're going to have free buses. We're going to have free bodegas. We're going to have free food, free rent, all of this other stuff. The free. Where is he going to get the money for it? Where is he wanting? Where was he going to get the money for it, really? Especially if he can't, which, by the way, he did already say he was going to put a 2% tax on all of the wealthy. Yeah, where do you think all those wealthy folks are going to go? Yeah, where do you think all those wealthy folks are going to go? They're going to leave New York. They're going to take their businesses with them, and they're going to go elsewhere. And who's going to end up footing the bill if it actually passes through the New York State Legislature and the New York State governor? All those tax hikes. Where do you think that money's going to go? They're going to drop it right hard on top of the middle class and the lower class in order to obtain all of that money. You don't think the billionaires and millionaires are already packing up? They're like, oh yeah, he won. Okay, we got 2 months to get out of here. And they're looking to do it. They're looking to do it. I guarantee you they are looking to do it. All right. Oh, let's talk a little bit. Well, let's talk about this. I like this. I really do like this because it's the elixir of the morning. That's right. It's coffee. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. This is actually Covfefe. C-O-F-F-E. Covfefe. Anyway, I'm sorry. That was bad. Some of the things that I think about before I have my morning coffee and like jumpstart my brain. Well, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's a limited number of kits available. In each kit, you are getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and you'll also get the Vitality Mushroom Coffee that has clean energy and laser focus with no crash, which is exactly what I need in the mornings. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also going to be getting my personal favorite, the Fold Spoon Clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also be receiving a frother that is strong enough not only to stir up your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions. We all know that she has a lot of those. You'll also be receiving the Black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to the numbers 1775 coffee. All of that is all one word. So 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO. And that / is the question mark key on your keyboard. 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your starter kit before they are gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your kit today. All right. Well, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that this hasn't gotten any traction, but I'll bet you it probably will before tomorrow. Folks, there is a possibility that Trump's 34 convictions that the left keeps talking about and saying, oh, yeah, he's a convicted felon. 34 felony convictions. Yeah, he's a felon. He's our felon president, a criminal felon president. Well, guess what? They are probably going to go away. the left is going to get pissed when they hear this. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals issues a stunning decision on the criminal case that you remember Alvin Bragg brought about the whole thing about the bribe that was paid and that was the elections, and he did these payments. He wrote them in his books to cover up another crime that was never articulated and never could be told or whatever. No. Yeah, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals stated that and this is basically how it is broken down. So let me tell you. Trump initially attempted to move the case from a state court to a federal court. That got shot down. Then the Supreme Court issued its ruling in Trump versus the United States, where Trump had immunity. You know how he has presidential immunity for presidential acts and things like that? And so anyway, he basically said that, hey, the Supreme Court making that thing means that I need to, this is a prosecution in one of my official acts as president. And so now it needs to be removed and establish, quote, good cause for another filing. And the district court judge shot that down in September of 2024, and Trump appealed again to the Second Circuit, which heard the oral argument on the matter back in June of 2025. Well, today they issued their ruling determining that the district court failed to properly consider the renewed motion. In other words, the district court said, yeah, you guys didn't even really think about it. You didn't even guess as to whether or not evidentiary immunity transformed the state's case into one that relates to acts under the color of the presidency. Because don't forget that in the actions of the presidency, even the people below him, because remember, all of this was hinged on that one aide or whatever, okay? That one aide. And so now what's ended up with is that they vacated the district court's order ruling or denying Trump's motion for leave to file a second notice of removal and remanded it back to them, to the district court, remanded it back to them for reconsideration of the motion, consistent with the fact that they now need to figure out if there's any evidence in that trial that falls under the presidential immunity, and whether or not, if some evidence is pulled out from this, whether or not the case can even be tried anymore. It also means that his request to send it up to the federal court, meaning that if it was improperly tried in the state court level, that it would then be remanded to the federal court level, which means that the state court convictions ultimately won't stand. And so if it transfers to the federal court, there's even some question as to whether or not the federal court's even going to look at it, because if you recall correctly, the state charged Trump after the Federal Elections Commission clearly stated, yeah, there's nothing here. There's no here. He did not violate any federal elections laws in doing this. And so, wow, if this goes back to the district court and the district court reconsiders it under the second appellate court's request, you could just see the 34 felonies get vacated. And by that, gone. And by the way, folks, those 34 charges, they were the exact same charge done 34 times, because there was 34 entries in the books that Alvin Bragg claims were tied to this cover-up process. So it's 34 charges, but it's 34 charges for the exact same crime, quote unquote, of covering up another crime. And it's that underlying crime that was supposed to be covered up that they couldn't articulate. So, yeah. Oh, these leftists are going to get pissed once they get a hold of this. Whew. Anyway. Well, the Supreme Court is back in the spotlight for two reasons. The first one is they heard oral arguments with regards to Trump's tariffs. And I got to admit, it was kind of it was a mediocre kind of thing. Okay. And by that, I mean, it didn't seem to necessarily go just one way. Like what you have seen in the past where, 6 of the justices asked questions that were pretty obvious that they didn't like. For an example, the Section 2 arguments that they were talking about for the race-based redistricting, it was pretty obvious that at least 5, if not 6, of the justices are not happy about the fact that race is still being utilized as a criterion for things within our government. Now, all of that is that now with this, it wasn't quite as clear cut. You had Gorsuch asking questions that, even Mark Levin was like, yeah, I don't know if I really agree with this line of questioning. You had Roberts out there saying, tariffs are just a tax. And that was, Sotomayor was saying tariffs are a tax and all this other stuff, because there's a lot to this. If tariffs are just a tax, then technically taxing is fully in the court of the Congress. But if a tariff is not really a tax, if it is actually decided to be more of a foreign policy, then that lands in the camp of the president. So a lot of this is going to be dependent upon how the justices of the Supreme Court define some of these words like imports, tariffs, licensing, all of those kinds of things. That if these things all kind of fall within the idea that this is a foreign policy matter, then the president has much more control over that foreign policy than Congress does. Okay. Also, too, Justice Brett Kavanaugh took issue with the argument by the Oregon Solicitor General Benjamin Gutmann, who was representing a dozen states challenging these tariffs, that the IEEPA, the emergency act that gives that President Trump invoked to get this power to do these tariffs, that basically, because the IEEPA, that's a double E, gives the president authority to shut down foreign trade altogether, that the question became, well, why can't he levy tariffs then? If he's allowed to shut down foreign trade, tariffs are just a part of foreign trade. So why is it that the government or that the Congress would give him power to shut down foreign trade altogether, but not give him the power to leverage tariffs? And he's like, according to your take, and keep in mind, this is the plaintiff's take, according to your take, the law would allow the president to shut down trade with every other country in the world or impose some sort of significant quota on imports from every other country in the world, but not allow like 1% tariffs. It's like, that just doesn't jive. To him, he called it an odd donut hole for Congress to leave in the statute. So then, of course, like I said, the question came up is whether or not tariffs are taxes. And if the Supreme Court decides to view Trump's tariffs as taxes, then that would also raise questions on whether or not Trump is encroaching on a power that the Constitution clearly just gave to Congress. Now, Sotomayor, of course, is saying that, I don't understand where you're getting the idea that tariffs are not taxes. And she says, but that's exactly what they are. They're generating money from American citizens in revenue. Kavanaugh jumped in and was like, well, you know, since the early days of the Republic, the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that a tariff applied to foreign imports is an exercise of what's called the commerce power, not of the taxation power. And so he's like, this seems to kind of at least undermine a bit this point that tariffs are, you know, that it's an entirely different power. So, yeah, anyway. And of course, the question was thrown out there whether or not Congress can actually delegate its tariff authority, because they've pretty much, the Supreme Court has upheld for a very long time that Congress can't necessarily delegate these powers. It's called the non-delegation doctrine, and it generally prohibits Congress from delegating its legislative powers to other entities. But that, of course, still contains some caveat. So another oral doctrine that came up during the oral arguments was called the major questions doctrine, which says that administrative agencies need clear congressional authorization before making decisions of major economic or political importance. So, again, it's kind of whether or not that's going to help. Now, Gorsuch, of course, seemed concerned that the administration was representing a legal theory that would lead to an overly expansive view of executive authority, essentially giving the executive more power than what it actually constitutionally has. And Justice Elena Kagan was also similarly skeptical of that same thing. So she made the comment that if Congress wanted to delegate its power, it had to provide some kind of a meaningful limit to that power. Well, and then we also have the question as to whether or not once Congress delegates this power, can Congress take it back? And Gorsuch himself expressed concern that once Congress delegates its tariff authority to the president, it may not be able to take it back by passing a new law. And the reason why he called this into a place is because of things like the presidential veto. Remember, folks, that there is a power of the presidency in order to veto laws, and that the only way to overcome that is by having what is called a veto-proof majority in Congress. Now, this is what Reagan had. Reagan had a veto-proof majority that he had to deal with. So he couldn't just willy-nilly veto laws because he didn't agree with them. And this is part of the reason why you have certain things like, you know, the taxation on Social Security and stuff. All the leftists keep saying, well, you know, Reagan signed it into law. Well, that's because he had a veto-proof majority he had to deal with. If he vetoed it, the Democrats, who had the majority at the time, could have veto-proofed the law. And so this is a question that the SCOTUS asked. They were like, well, wait a minute. If Congress doesn't have veto-proof majority, writes a law saying, hey, we gave you this power, now we want it back, and they don't have a veto-proof majority, like now, in Congress, the president could just say, yeah, I'm not giving it back. I'm vetoing that law. And there'd be nothing that Congress could do about it. So, yeah. Anyway, lots of different questions. And, of course, the final question really revolved around, well, if we say that the Trump tariffs, that Trump can't put these tariffs on, how does this work in terms of refunds? Because obviously you're going to have to give refunds back to people or the companies. And wow, isn't that going to kind of be a mess? So, yeah, if they uphold the lower court rulings where that struck down the tariffs, even, you know, Amy Coney Barrett said, if the tariffs are invalidated, the reimbursement process is going to be a real mess. because the Trump administration has collected nearly 90 billion, that's with a B, billion in revenue in fiscal 2025 from the tariffs that are being challenged in this case. Justice Alito also discussed the complicated process should the court invalidate the tariffs, only for the Trump administration to go ahead and impose new tariffs using different legal authorities, which would then likely be challenged and work through the court system again. So, yeah. Lots of questions. But this was just the oral argument phase, folks. This was not the decision. The decision is going to be a little while. They'll probably give it out in June, just like everything else. Well, except for when they do something like this. So the Supreme Court also today issued a ruling that the president, who had issued an executive order stating that the sex that is identified on government documents must match the holder's biological sex. Now, you remember Biden and some of the other ones previous to him actually allowed some documents to change depending upon their particular gender, whether it was, their decided identity. All right. So if you were a biological male and you transferred into a female, you could put female on those documents. Well, Trump came in and one of his first executive orders was, yeah, that stops. You have to match whatever you were biologically at birth. Well, the Supreme Court issued an unsigned order with no comment, and they just basically said, it's not violating anything in the 14th Amendment. It doesn't offend equal protection principles. So, yeah, the government, the State Department can put that out and say that you have to use your biological sex. And that was a 6-3 decision. So obviously the three activists, Kagan, Jackson, and Sotomayor, dissented from that. But the other 6 justices, they said, yeah, this is really, So this order temporarily stays an order by the U.S. District Court back on June 17th in Massachusetts, which is now under appeal under the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First District. And so now it's like, okay, this is going to be kind of interesting. But at least for now, the president's executive order using biological sex on government documents is now required. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Real quick, I just want to point this out because a lot of people are talking about it. John Thune is saying that they do not have, the Republicans still lack the votes to end the filibuster, despite Donald Trump's renewed push to end the filibuster. All right. And I'm just going to put this out there. Look, I'm going to tell you, if we end the filibuster, we are opening up a can of worms that we are really not prepared for. This is a Pandora's box, because I guarantee you, see, one of the principles that I have, and I got to cover this quickly, but one of the principles that I have is the more bogged down government can be, the less pain they can inflict upon the American people. And so as far as I'm concerned, the more bogged down the government can get, the better off it is for the American people, especially because of the fact that the American government is way outside its constitutional boundaries. And so as far as I'm concerned, the more stops that you can make, I don't care whether it's Republican or Democrat, it doesn't make a difference. The more stops that you can make and you can blockade things, the better off the American people are going to be. And so getting rid of the filibuster just to end this government shutdown, I think is ridiculous, because what's going to happen is by passing laws with certain laws in a simple majority fashion, I guarantee you when the Democrats get back in power, and they will, whether or not they have a complete filibuster-proof majority or not, more than likely not, the next time they get into power, I guarantee you they're going to stack the court. They're going to do all the things that they keep saying that they're going to go ahead and do. And if the Republicans get rid of the filibuster now, it's not going to, it won't be coming back. I think this is a bad idea. I think this is a mistake of Donald Trump trying to push for the filibuster, to get rid of the filibuster. And I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, it is so much better when the government, regardless of which party, when the government is split between both parties and they actually have to work together in order to get anything done. That's when the American people actually win. Sort of. We never win when it comes to government interfering in our lives. But all of these things, I'm just saying, all of these things is that, simply put, do not get rid of the filibuster. I know it's causing us pain right here, right now. But there is a Pandora's box waiting for us on the other side. And if we get rid of the filibuster now, it basically means that the Democrats can come in and give it to us good and hard when they get back in power. And I promise you, you do not want to do this. You do not want to do this. All right. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, there is a fantastic article, Culturecidal by John Hawkins. John Hawkins, it basically is talking about, is essentially talking about why getting rid of the filibuster would mean the end of democracy in America. I don't agree with him in his terminology of using democracy, but anyway. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. You ought to go check out that article too, by the way. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search for the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up or thumbs downs, or if you're 3 Chevy, some thumb sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.